My Lords, I really want to welcome so much of the content contained in these amendments. I found reading them slightly more refreshing than the more dystopian kind of images we'd previously had. And quite exciting, actually, because the Noble Baroness Harding sounded quite upbeat, which has been in contrast to previous contributions in relation to what online world is like. But I do want to defend the Noble Baroness Bennett of Manor Castle from the intervention which suggested she was going off topic, because actually the truth of the matter is that these amendments are calling for children's rights to be introduced into legislation via this bill. And I disagree with that, but at least we should talk about it if it's the content of the amendments. I think indeed that, whereas I like the spirit of these amendments, it seems wrong to me that children's rights, which I consider to be with huge constitutional implications, require a proper bill if you want to bring them in, not to be latched on to this one. My concerns are that children's rights can be used to undermine adult authority, are regularly cited as a way of undermining parents' rights, and that children under 18 cannot enact political rights. Whether they have agency or capacity, they are not legally able to exercise their political rights, and therefore somebody has to act on their behalf as an intermediary, as a third party, which is why it can become such a politicised, difficult area. I say that because I think it would be a fascinating discussion to have. I don't think this is the bill to do it on, but the spirit of the amendments at least seem to me to raise issues that I think we should bear in mind for the continuation of the discussion. I was thinking that during lockdown, we as a society stopped young people from having any social interaction with each other at all. They were isolated, and there's a lot of new reports coming out to suggest that young people's mental health has suffered because they were on their own. And what they did was they went online, and in many instances it kept them sane. I mean, that's not just the young people, by the way, that's probably true of the rest of us. I'm making the point, however, that it wasn't all bad. It's also the case that over recent years, as we have been concerned about children's safety and protecting children, we've actually discouraged them from roaming far from home. People don't go out on the bikes and run around all the time. They kind of come back home, you'll be safe. And of course, what's happened is they've kind of gone into their room and gone online, and now we say, well, that's not safe either. So there is a kind of sense in which I want to acknowledge that the online world has helped young people, as it were, overcome the problems of isolation and a lack of community that sometimes the adult world has denied young people from developing. And I think that's an important thing because it can be a source of support and solidarity. And children really do need spaces to talk and engage and interact with friends, with mates, with their colleagues and so on, where they can push boundaries, all sorts of things, without grown-ups interfering. That's what we've always understood from child development. It's why you don't have spies wandering around all the time following them. But the main thing is that we know that it's different, the difference between a 4-year-old and a 14-year-old. You know, we call a child, in relation to this bill, anyone under 18. But I was glad that these amendments acknowledge the distinctions in terms of appropriateness is very important. But the most important thing is that when young people are online, or if they're involved in encrypted messages like WhatsApp or so on, they're not all kind of planning to join county lines or being groomed, right? Sometimes they are actually, it's not all dodgy. And so I think that appropriateness in terms of child age, not always imagining the worst is happening, seems to me to be an important counter that this amendments bring to some of the more pessimism that we've heard up until now. Just to finish, that the Noble Lord Russell says that children's rights are not mentioned in the bill at all, but the freedom of expression has been mentioned 49 times. I mean, first of all, it's not a bill about children's rights, but when he says freedom of expression has been mentioned 49 times, can I just assure him that quantity is not quality, and the mention of it means nothing. The most improper... Oh, sorry. Where's it gone? Oh, right.
The noble lady's assertion that this bill isn't about children's rights. Anyone who has a teenage child knows that their right to access the internet is something that is keenly held and fought out in every household in the country.
And the quip works, but political rights are not quips. And political rights have responsibilities and so on and so forth. If we gave children rights, they would not be dependent on adults and adult society in the way. So, no, and therefore it's a debate. It's a row about what our rights are. It's a, well, guess what? It's a philosophical row that's been going on for all around the world on this very question. I'm just suggesting this isn't the place to be going.
Sorry, but I do have to point out that 16 and 17-year-olds in Scotland and Wales have the vote. That is a political right.
And it's been highly contentious as to whether the right to vote gives them independence, because you would still be accused, for example, of child exploitation if you did anything to a person under 18 in Scotland or Wales, right? In fact, if you were to tap someone and it was seen as slapping in Scotland and they were 17, you would actually be in trouble. Anyway, it shouldn't be in this bill. That's my point.
If I may very briefly intervene, because Scotland and Wales